In this video, I want to walk you through some important information to help you complete your second lab. So here's one of the cell phone stands I created. If I use Control Tab, we can look at the stands themselves. So here's the second one I created, and these are both uploaded for you to look at and download. They're saved as a 3D PDF. So let's look at some of the things you'll need to do and be able to create this. We want to create it in the context of the assembly. So to free up resources, I'm going to close these. I'm back to my assembly with my cell phone and the bounding box so I don't go outside of it as I design my stand with a speaker amplification system. So I'm going to look at it isometrically. The first thing I want to do is go to the assembly ribbon, to the drop down arrow below insert components, and I'm going to tell it to insert a new part. I'm working in inch, so I'll choose an inch template and say OK. And that green check mark is just reminding me to click to create the part. So here's my part, and I want to rename it. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to say rename it, and I'm going to call this stand. So I've created this part in the context of the assembly. Just move this back here. And now I want to use my phone in the box to control some of it. I also want to keep in mind that for this challenge, I'm designing for 3D printing. So I can have a fairly elaborate shape, one that would be impossible to injection mold or machine, and it most likely will print just fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this part, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to select edit the part. So everything will go transparent, and I want to create some planes, and I want to work inside of these planes. So I'm going to create a plane here on the back face of the phone. Now my mouse still wants to select the bounding box. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the bounding box, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to hide it. That'll make it easier to select the phone. Remember, I'm working now in this part within the context of the assembly, and I know that because the cell phone is see-through and this has gone blue. So what I'm going to now tell it to do is I want to create some reference geometry, some planes, so I can use those. So I'm going to create a plane on this face. So I'm just going to create an offset plane, make the offset 0. It's fully defined, and I'll accept that. I'm also going to create a plane down here. So I'm going to pre-select the geometry, go to reference geometry plane, and again I can just do another offset plane. The other option I have is to create a coincident plane. So this time I'll create a coincident plane. It's fully defined, and I'll say OK. And the last plane I want to create for now is I'm going to choose the top of the phone. And again, I'm going to create reference geometry, plane, and another coincident plane, and accept that. So if I expand this feature tree, I've created 3 new planes to help me create what I want to do. And they represent the top, the bottom, and the back of the cell phone. And before I go any further, I want to sketch where this speaker is. My computer's not the best, and it tends to slow down its performance if I do a lot in the context of the assembly. So I want to create some basic geometry from the phone, and then I want to use that by opening up the part itself and creating, and then come back to the assembly and see how it looks. So for my next step, I'm going to sketch in this plane. So I'm going to select this third plane I created. I could rename it if I want. I will. I'm going to call this top of phone. I should rename all these planes. I'm going to do the slow double click, and I'll rename it base. And finally, I'll rename this plane. Again, I'll use the slow double click, and I'll call this bottom of phone. So I've named my 3 planes. That arrow tells me they were created in the context of the assembly. And now I'm going to sketch in this plane. So I'm going to click on it and select sketch. I'll look normal too. And what I want to do is convert the shape of the phone into this plane. So I'm going to select convert entity, and I'll convert this pocket. So I can click one entity at a time. I can also rotate around and see what was selected. In this case, I just got the one edge. So I'll right click and I'll clear that selection, and then I'll come back. I'll right click on an edge, and I'm going to tell it to select the loop. Okay. It has the wrong loop. I'll click on the arrow. Now I have the right loop. So I'll right click and accept that, and I've converted that edge. To make it easier to see, I'm just going to stop editing the sketch for a second. I'll stop editing the part, and I'm going to open this part up. With the part open, I'm now going to fit the geometry to the screen. And here I can see I've converted this edge. So I'll Control Tab back to my part, and I'm going to continue on. So I'm going to select this sketch, and I'm going to edit the sketch, and I also want to convert the outside edge of the phone. So again, I'm going to select Convert Entities. This time I'm going to select the outer edges of the part. I'll rotate around, I'll grab the fillet, grab the edge. Again, I'll grab each fillet, each edge, rotate around, zoom in and out as I need to. Continue to select these edges and these fillets. I'll right click to accept it. And now I have the geometry that represents the phone and the planes that represent the bottom, the base, and the top. I'm going to exit this sketch. I'm going to stop editing the part. And again, I'm going to Control Tab back to this. I'll fit. And I can see I now have some geometry I can use. I know which way is up. If I'm not sure, I can turn on the visibility of these planes so that I can see it and I can start working. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how I would use this to create some basic geometry.